Welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode 501. Sorry I didn't exactly go much, let's say, excitement much. Basically, I did 500 because I was kind of in a hurry to get the review done because I had a stream to do. But now the stream's over. Well, I should mention basically, I kind of started reviewing this stuff like, oh my gosh, it's been like 9 years ago. Which is, by the way, there's one thing I'm talking about in this particular video, came out that very year. And now I'm going to talk about it. But in the case of basically, like, here's the thing with basically Sentai reviews right now, is that as of currently, I have, after finishing Gokaiger, I have 4 Sentai left. Really? 4 left? Yeah, 4 left. Lope Ranger vs. Panther Ranger, Kira Major, Senkaiger, and Dawn Brothers. And that's it. You're like, wow, only 4 left. Yeah, when I came back this 4 years ago, and, well, I've done a lot. Especially this year. A lot of Sentai. This very year. Yeah, because I pretty much put behind me the 2000s. The 2010s is getting really close to getting done. Like, at the Zenkaiger, I think I have like 2 left for the 2000s. And also 2 left to go for the 2020s there right now. Yeah. But when I originally started this review series, I was reviewing a whole series in one video. And then when I took a 3-year break, because I was kind of burnt out with Sentai, because I wanted to just do something else. And then I came back to it briefly in 2020, where watched 10 episodes of Jaka, then I took a break for a whole year, and then came back full time the next year in 2021, where been watching since then. It's part of my review stuff I've been doing, and I've also been taking breaks basically while I've been doing this. Like, used to be about halfway through the series. Now I've been doing it since Kamen Rider Black. I'm doing this where like 30 episodes in, that's basically where I usually 30 or just a little past 30-ish is when I take a break. Depends what series I'm working on. Though there's been one Middle Hero series where I did not take a break. I basically just kept watching it until I finished it. That being Metalder. And I decided not to do that again. And Sentai was burnt out mainly because I didn't take a break like I did, basically. And of course, since I brought the series back, I've been just reviewing sets of episodes I watched and just do it from there. Yes. Now, since basically I brought the thing back, when I went on my break, originally back in 2017 this happened. There was a handful of series that I had started but did not finish. And those series were Go Ranger, Hurricaneger, Kakaranger, Shurikenger, and Go Anja. These 5 Sentai shows, these 5 ones, where I started them but never finished. And there was also a handful of movies that I had seen but never viewed. It was the movies for it was the Kakaranger movie, Hurricaneger versus Gaoranger, Hurricaneger versus Avaranger, Avaranger versus Dekaranger. I think another one was there was also Bokanger vs. Super Sentai. So the movies basically that I watched in the review were the Kakaranger movie, Gaoranger vs. Hurricaneger, Hurricaneger vs. Avaranger, Avaranger vs. Dekaranger, Bokanger vs. Super Sentai. And there was one other movie that I did watch, but I did not review it. And that movie was Kiroja vs. Go Busters. Yep, that was simply those movies. And when I finished last year, I basically one thing I appreciated last year was that I did finish up the last series I had started but not finished. That would be Gokaiger. Actually, it was Gokaiger, Hurricane. Those two were the only ones left to go. I got those done last year. And movies wise, I did manage to go through all the remaining ones I had not, that I have seen but not reviewed. I got all those done last year. And now basically, now some might be thinking, when I fully catch up with Sentai, is the series going to go away? Is it going to be retired? No, I have no plans to end it anytime soon. But 500 episodes, so this one's actually 501 actually, it's basically a really good accomplishment for me. The fact that I have a series to get this far, and primarily the reason why I decided to keep doing Sentai at a certain point, like I was going to do something else, but I had to do more. Purely because basically 475 at that point was my highest viewed video in my history. And here's the thing, I have been recording my YouTube channel now for 12 years, and I've never had a video go past 1,000 views. I was surprised about that. And then here's something interesting though. Just recently, I just found out there was another video just recently that actually broke that record. Where my final video I did a review for Yandere Dark Alteration from the World, that has 2,000 views. When I last looked at it, someone had over 2,000. I'm like, oh my god. I have never had a video ever get to 2,000 for. That's awesome. Yes. Looking, of course, basically, when I brought the thing back, I was already into it. Of course, basically, in the case of series I've watched, but basically, I just did the whole thing with video. I pretty much did most of the 1990s. That being, there was Ginga Man, Mega Ranger, Go-Go 5, Time Ranger, Ga Ranger. There was also Zyuohger, Die Ranger. I also did get done Gokaiger and Gokaiger. Just these 9. Yeah, I got these done pretty much quickly from late 2016 into basically 2016. I got these ones done. Then took a break, and since then, I finished up a lot of Sentai. Yes, a lot of it. But now basically I'm reviewing right now the 40th ever Sentai release. Though is my 40th series reviewed? No. Because aside from this one, I've also reviewed the one kid, this one, that being Q Ranger, King Olger, Boom Boom Bonger, and of course, Zyuohger. I believe this is the 45th Sentai I pretty much have reviewed. Though I did kind of start Dawn Brothers, but I haven't finished yet. I might go back to it. I'm probably go back to it soon. But what happened in the course of these few episodes? Well, in 26, basically, where we have it where Yamato runs to an old friend of his from college, where he's invited to his wedding because he married one of his coworkers, and his friends just have to come along. Of course, they dress up, and of course, basically, they weren't exactly on the guest list, but because they're friends of Yamato's, they're allowed to come, but have to sit in the balcony, which they had no problem with that. They would see a ceremony, and then basically the Mega Beast Hunter shows up, and I don't think it's trying to break the bonds. Oh, by the way, also in these episodes, there's no new player. None. It's all about the Mega Beast Hunter in these episodes. Yes. So, they of course deal with the return of some other characters from the past, and like breaking bonds. Though, nice wedding. Wasn't bored. It was really nice. The fact we actually had a wedding that was basically a fake one, or one that was interrupted. This is what I thought was really cool. The next one basically is all about testing loyalty, but the whole thing of like the imposter stuff, which I thought was quite interesting, and it was a bit of a clip show, but that was really cool. But then, of course, the teaser at the end tease what's going to happen the very next episode, what's about to get said. So basically, the Mega Base Hunter, where he's basically, ooh, look, it's Curry. And then at a nearby table is Captain Marvelous. Which I believe this was his first appearance since, believe it or not, Go Busters versus Gokaiger, which that was another movie I did see, but I didn't review at the time. Yeah. You think, wait, that was his most recent appearance prior to this one? Yes. Like, huh. Interesting. As far as I could tell. Oh, by the way, 26, I think it was. We actually found the Birdman's name. His name is Bard. And he runs into Larry, who has not been seen since, like, episode 6. That was the last time he appeared, so... So apparently their previous appearance before this very movie was actually in Superhero Tension Z, which was awesome movie. From what I've heard, it's much better received than the first Tension movie. Apparently it's like 3 years after that one. Okay, so this was technically his first appearance in a Sentai-related thing since Go Busters vs. Gokaiger. Interesting. Yeah, he was also featured in Tension Z, but probably the first time the actor who's played him. Probably the first time since this movie, which came out in 2013. That was the last time. And this episode here was released in 2016. So basically first time in 3 years. And most of the put they're here just to advance the characters. So he shoots them up, and then here comes Zyuohger's like, oh look, of course they don't know who Marvelous is. Like, oh, he's a space pirate. They fight him briefly, and then, oh, gotta distract him. Yes, gotta distract him. So then before this, basically, they're like, oh, well, I'm looking for a link cube. And Leo just leads everybody straight to the link cube that was damaged back in episode 1 of the show. And the last time it was seen was actually back in episode 2. You're like, really? And then, oh, by the way, Masio has not seen this thing before because he wasn't there for it. So then, of course, they open the thing up and discover, oh, we have this mysterious gold. And then, of course, the Zyuohgers turn back to their Zyuohger form. We have the debut of a whale. Yes, a whale. Where he apparently fights this creature from space, and he becomes a Zyuohger Ranger. Apparently the very first Zyuohger Ranger in the history of the show. How long ago this was, they don't really say. He's just their ancestor. And apparently he helped founded Zyuohland. As for, and they also mentioned apparently when they mentioned the thing about this Grand Champion symbol, like they've never heard of this thing before. Like this is completely new to them, which is interesting. And then of course it's like keep away for a while, and then the rest of the Gokaigers show up. Though we do see Guy, where he is basically begging, get this, the Tokugers to borrow their power. Which I should point out, though, this is after the end of the series Tokuger, but presumably this is before their team up in Ninja. I could kind of buy that. And of course, they bought a bunch of their powers too. And then we see that they had the powers. And of course, like in this one episode, here's what they transform into in just this one episode alone. The Gokai changes. Marvelous becomes Gal Red, Geki Red, Red Buster, which that is interesting because he actually met the guy, and Red Hawk. Blue, that's Joe. He becomes Ao Ninjanger. Yellow is Yellow Buster. Gokai Green is basically Ford Tokuger, and Pink is Cure Pink. Like, this is interesting though, basically for Go Busters, Ninjanger, Tokuger, and Kyroger. Yeah, the 4 series there between Gokaiger and this one, which I found that kind of interesting. The fact they borrowed their powers. Yep. And then, of course, everybody's calmed down because Guy reveals, oh yeah, we're their predecessors. Well, basically, they reveal, oh yeah, there are previous 39 other teams. Yes. And get this, and of course basically explained back at the, well, their headquarters, which is basically Masao's house. And of course, like, oh, look at the tail, goes basically Deathlinger. And then you just have basically Marvelous, Yamato fighting for a bit, and of course he treats his hand, which was injured. And then Bother shows up. Yeah. And then he reads his memory. And like, oh, you have some interesting memories, Space Pirate. Where apparently he summons a memory duplicate of Enter, Escape, 2 villains from Go Busters. Massive Sandra counterpart from Shurikenger. Battle from Go Sager. And I think, who is this other guy? And I'm thinking, like, wait, he seems very familiar. Yeah, it's Battle Messiah. Down Crew, Into Escape. Oh yeah, they also use basically the main villain of Kyroger, Debuff. Yeah, that was kind of surprised seeing him here. Was this his... Yeah, believe it or not, this was actually his return. This is a one-off return for him. Yeah, this was a one-off return for him. It was kind of interesting. The fact they threw this guy in. I mean, this was a fake, obviously, but this actually was the first time since Kyroji's been seen. And, of course, Flashback and King Andre after this, but this was technically his one-off return. And it only been, believe it or not, only been 2 years since he died. And he comes back here. And one they brought back, I'm like, wait, he didn't die. But apparently got brought back here. Dark Emperor Zet. Which is the first time he's been seen outside of archive footage since the end of Tokuger. And then he appeared later on after this in Superhero Tension. This is Kamen X, he appeared in Kamen X Superhero, Kamen Sentai Chu Superhero Tension. They're like, interesting. Enter, I thought basically the verse move with Kyroja, I thought that was his last appearance. Oh no. Yeah, he comes back in this one episode. It's a fake, obviously, but yeah, he's back. First time he appeared since Kiroja vs. Go Busters, which only came out, I think, like a year prior to this. 2 years prior, exactly 2 years. So, yeah, him and Escape basically was interesting. At least Escape made appearances even after this. Yeah, her appearances after this, which is kind of interesting. Yes, because she does make one appearance after this, that being Kyuranger versus Super Sentai. Yep, so Badger Messiah, this was actually his first appearance, I believe, since the 199 movie. I believe so. Which he did appear also in Tension as well. Yeah, but he did appear in 2 movies, and this would be his final ever appearance. You could say this first appearance on TV. He probably had a little bit longer of a wait than everybody else. This is his first appearance he made on TV in 5 years. As for Dooku, Dakachu, that's the main villain of Shurikenger. Yeah, he's brought back here for this movie, for this episode. Yeah, first time seen since the previous 2 Tension movies. And this would be his final appearance. And this was actually his first appearance in 6 years on television. And this will be his final appearance. And of course, basically during this, we do have some Gokaiger changes. You're like, really? Yes. Where Marvelous becomes Aka Ranger, which I believe that's the that's the original Ranger. Blue becomes Red Flash and Ball Eagle, which of course Ball Eagle was something in the previous episode. Yellow becomes Shuriken Red and Ganga Red. Anyway, Ganga Red. Yeah, from Ginga Man. Green becomes Red Racer and Gosei Red. Pink becomes Magi Red and Geki Red. Gokaiger becomes Boken Red and Tyranno Ranger. Interesting. Yeah. I was reading like the whole thing with Zet. I do kind of agree with the fact, like, why the heck is he even here? Because he never met him. Like, if you want to bring back somebody to shock everybody, why the heck would you bring back Zet for? Yeah. Like, I get like Chenku, because of course he did appear in the Hana movie, so you could kind of got that appearance, but Zet, I would have picked Black Cross King over him. But my guess is basically Zet is probably of the ones they summoned here, probably the most recent villain. I mean, he only been 2 years since the last they was seen. And of course, they're all pretty much destroyed really easily. And of course, they did mech battle, but no Gokaiger in here. Well, they do appear at the end, but no mech battle for them, which I thought that was interesting. Yeah, no mech battle. I would have thought basically they would. You could kind of think, oh, they don't do much of anything. Well, they're there for a purpose, just to acknowledge, like, yeah, all these Sentai Rangers are here, and then they have the Returnal Ranger keys afterwards. Oh, yeah, and also Navi basically was kind of a spoiler, like, oh yeah, they're gonna appear because Navi appears. And then by the end of the episode, Navi's like, see you in episode 3000, even though he appears and everything. Yeah, and those of you curious, why in the world did they bring back Gokaiger for 2829? Well, there's a very good reason why. It was to celebrate episodes 1999 and episode 2000. That's the only reason why they did it. And plus, of course, they're the ones who had the last anniversary season, which was actually the 35th show of the series. Which that's the reason why they were there. But overall, really good 4 episodes. Really looking for this one. But before we go to this video out, I gotta talk about the 10th anniversary Gokaiger movie. Wow. What a damn good movie this is. So, they do acknowledge the movie. It has been 5 years since the events of episode 29. Though, here's the thing. They do appear once between episode 29 of Zyuohger and this movie, and that's being the 4-week Super Sentai Strongest Battle. I will watch that after I watch Lupin Ranger vs. Panther Ranger. So, basically in this one, where we start out with Joe, yes, Joe, Gokaiger Blue, where actually we first started with this fire, and it turns out that Gokaiger Gallon has been destroyed. You're thinking, what the heck happened here? And Joe's about to fire a rifle at the ship for some reason. You're thinking, did Joe bring down the galleon? Oh no, this turned out with somebody else altogether. And then we cut to Earth, where we see, well, Dr. Don. Yes, this is interesting. He says it's been a while, probably been a few years. They do acknowledge the fact that later when Guy, he apparently has been back on Earth now for 4 years, so he came back probably in 2017. Like he said, stay on Earth. You're thinking, okay, so was it a year after the return of them that he decided to just return to Earth for some reason per se? My guess is because of the super strong battle thing. That's probably the reason for it. Also in the tribute episode we do get the power is used for a few people who were not actually seen in that one. Yes, we do see it was episode 29. We do see the Denzi Man one. Even Life Man, which I thought was really cool. So, by the way, also, Red becomes Zhao Whale. His third, and from what I can tell, his last form he assumes in the series. Pretty much right there. So, yeah. So they're back on Earth. And then reveals, oh, there's this Super Sentai Derby, where we have the Sentai Rangers fighting each other. You're like, why? Well, it turns out they're not the actual ones in the suit. Nope. So, get this. These are actually copies of the Sentai powers, but apparently all of the Sentai surrendered their keys for some reason, despite the fact that they were all returned at the end of Gokaiger. Yeah, so excuse me. So, and also you're thinking, how the heck they create these substitutes? Well, somehow, some way, they got their hands on Joker's trumpet. Which, this is interesting, because the last time this thing was seen, because he didn't have it during the Q Ranger versus Space Squad crossover. I think officially the last time seen was back in the Gokaiger show. Where the heck they found this thing is complete mystery, because I think anybody watched like, wait, where the heck did they get this thing? I mean, that's Joker's trumpet. The same thing he used bringing the other Rangers. And it just all betting, and apparently like 80% of the profits go to defense of the planet for reasons. Also, because it's an anniversary movie, we apparently cannot have any returning Sentai in this show. We do see appearance here by the Sentai Encyclopedia, which this book is actually real. I've seen it in a video from a guy who I follow on YouTube and Patreon. He has this very book. I'm like, did they publish this book in Universe? The only person I think he probably would publish is maybe Guy. And probably is cooperating with the government with this, where, like, and by the way, the revenues come from gambling. Oh, bet it this much, basically, for, yeah. So Marvelous arrives on the planet on a damaged ship. Also, he has his eye damaged for some reason. Yeah, this actually was caused by the villains of the movie. They're the ones who took away his eye for reasons. And then Luca shows up later on, she capturing him and then just hauling him off and surrendering her key. Because like, oh, I don't need this anymore. I'm like, really? You dropped your key. But there's a reason for this. Also, there's a kid in there. There's this other guy here who turns out get this with this particular this guy here. It is Masaki Nawano. Yes, they brought him back for this movie, except for some weird reason. They don't know. I don't know exactly the reason. Okay. But instead of bringing back the original actor, they've decided to just replace him for no reason. Yeah. Okay, so there is one returning actor, and, well, there's a reason why. Yeah. So basically, here's the fighters. So the first one, Shinobi Showdown. Dana Black, Ninja White, Shuriken Aka Ranger. Land Sea Showdown, Ball Shark, Gold Blue, Geki Red, Panther Ranger, yes. Yellow Lion, won the Panther Rangers. Speed Showdown, Red Turbo, Pink Racer, Blue Flash, Blue Mask, Ginga Yellow, Kiro Green, Legend Showdown, Red Booster, Buster, Balkinia, Magiello, and Denzi Blue. Also, there's the announcer here who actually played Brett Beat Buster and Magiello. Yeah, he appears in this movie for reasons as one of the movie's commentators. You're like, really? Yeah, and he's played by the actor who played him in the show. He's basically playing himself in this movie. Which, this movie is kind of one of his most recent things he's involved with. Okay, so this is actually his most recent film he's been in. Yeah. And it's interesting the fact he's like sad the fact that two Rangers he basically played get defeated here. Mm-hmm. Now, Akira Masoda, is he a previous Sentai actor? Well, it turns out this actually was Bosco. Yep, it's Bosco's actor. Yep, he is here for this movie. My guess is they included him because, well, he was in Gokaiger, so why not? He does make one more appearance after this, and it's the movie for Gokaiger. And that's it for him. Yeah. Oh, and there's also Key Showdown, which is King Ranger, Shuriken Gold, and 5 Black. Yep. And you have tomorrow. Yeah, and Dawn. Oh, yeah, he sold the green, which. Oh, they explain what the heck it is. So then, of course, basically, yeah, Marvel is fighting fakes of Black Condor, which that is interesting. The fact that they start with Black Condor Jetman, given the fact that his actor is actually friends with the actor who played him. Because I heard an interview that, like, I'll talk about what was his favorite Sentai, basically, to watch, and they actually worked with, and just by sheer coincidence, just not that far from this interview, it was, the actor who played Black Condor was there. Which, that was interesting. So in case you're curious, though, that's kind of the reason why, because he was friends with the actor. They also have Abra Blue, which, where is he from? He is from Abra Ranger, Ghostly Red, Galgo Yellow, Change Megasis, Toku 6, that's being Akira's one, Magi Black, Kirma Silver. That is interesting, the fact that, well, because of course he's from Kira Major. This movie's the first one I actually have seen the guy. And of course, big one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then of course you have Guy facing him because why not? And then he's defeated by this weird ability thing. He's just somehow wins because apparently if Marvelous wins, the Derby gets shut down. So Guy basically is not happy with the fact that the Ranger forms after Guy, after Marvelous, and of course Amel shows up, and they're hunted by Heart Queen, Denzi Green, Go Yellow, Time Fire, Deca Blue, and Go on Black. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the course basically where, get this, so, excuse me, so basically where, so basically Guy steals some Red Ranger keys. Which ones? Well, we find out later because these are new ones. After Zyuohger, which is interesting to say the least. So, yeah, and of course him and the kid basically get out of there, though they're chased by the original Red Ranger, which is kind of hilarious. Like, oh, I don't want to hurt you. And of course, basically Joe shows up, and of course, God's like, Joe! Like, so happy to see him. And Joe is taking down Aka Ranger, Red 1, Ryu Ranger, and Boken Red. Mm-hmm. And then they see basically Marvelous and of course Amel, and then we have some, and this is interesting. So we have in this movie, we have where they become, I think Amel becomes Wrestler of Rider Soldier. Of course, I kind of know about the suit because I've seen basically Dino Fury. Zyuohger, because I'm watching Zyuohger right now. So she read from Kyuranger. I've seen Kyuranger, I know who he is. Karma Red, that's actually from Kyuranger. Patron 1 and Lupin Red from Panther Ranger versus Lupin Ranger. Which is interesting, though, the fact we actually have from 2016, 2017, let's say 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, actually at 2018. Yeah, it's interesting the fact is like that. It's like the only one they don't have is basically Gokaiger. Yeah, there's no Gokaiger in this movie. Not really, no. And apparently they got to the catchphrases, which is interesting. Like, I know by the like them because I've seen Kyuranger, and of course, basically, Zyuohger would like Donuts Planet and B to the copies. And then, of course, Marvel reveals what the heck is going on. So, this mysterious group that basically, who is the main villains of this movie, are in fact a group of villains known only as the Badger Pirates. They are a trio of evil pirates who appear just in this movie. They're led by a man named Bradley, and his subordinates are Rem and Aderos. Bradley is a clown guy, is all about clown stuff. Rem is a guy with a weird thing in his face. Apparently, this is also took from a woman who is played by Rakuto Sakita, which of course this is only played Mew from Kamen Rider 4Z. Yep. And you're probably curious to was she a previous Sentai Ranger? She was in Mara Soldier for like a single episode. But mostly because she's known for being Kamen Rider 4Z. Adros, who basically is a big bulky guy. Yeah, he's played by Metal Yoshida, which he was in Kamen Rider Bravo. Well, Kamen Rider Gem. Yeah, he was in Kamen Rider Gem. Sentai wise, this is his sole appearance in Sentai, so it's like, yeah, let's bring in guys from Kamen Rider. And Bradley, it was played by Toshi Mashima, and he appeared once in Gokaiger as one of the ghosts in the Gokaiger, the movie, the Flying Ghost Ship. Whew. Excuse me. Mostly just a singer. Minister of Defense. Is he a previous Sentai actor? Well, this guy was Taro Hojo in Kamen Rider Agazo. But was this his sole Sentai appearance? For Sentai wise, yes. And I have to ask the question. Does anyone find it really weird that the villains are all played by people who were in Kamen Rider? Yeah. So then, of course, basically, then there was this jewel. Then when they were fighting, they transformed once again. They say, "Oh, we've done this for 10 years." And the red jewel pops up, and then of course, it becomes the first appearance of something really new in this movie: the Gokaiger key, which gives the 5 main Gokaigers various weapons. Gives basically Marvelous as part of the ship, red like big shoulder pads. Gives Joe like this big gauntlet, and we give Amel and Luca basically leg rockets to beat the bad guys, which that was really cool. And then of course Bradley's defeated by having all the parts go into Marvelous and defeat him, but no mech battle this time. Interesting. I'll get back to it later. So, oh yeah, the Minister's defeated. Oh, and they do out the how do they out basically the Minister's members as aliens? Well, basically Doc basically planted a transmitter on Gokai Silver's key and spilled the beans. And apparently wanted to turn the fake Sentai Rangers into an invading army to invade planets. All because the planet was frequently invaded over the years. So he's like, our turn to invade. But like, those planets stopped, and not really knowing what happened with them afterwards. And apparently Guy left for some reason. Probably was something that happened in the Super Sentai Battle, which I'll watch later. Navi mentioned it's been 5 years, and it's a brief thing for him. He does appear like this image thing to talk basically about betting, which I found that to be interesting. But this movie was fantastic. I loved it. It was by far one of the best anniversary movies I've ever seen. It is amazing. It basically feels great in continuity with this one. And also there's a brief appearance by an actual Sentai Ranger. Yes, Amel basically went to go see Caramel Silver from Kira Major to steal his ability to expose the villains. Yep. So for Gokaiger, there's technically just 2 more appearances for them. You're like, really? Yeah, really. Basically Super Strong Battle and another verse movie. Well, in the case of the actor who played him, well, we're thinking, okay, so what's after him? Well, aside from the forward continuous special Super Strong Battle, well, there is an episode of Gokaiger, a couple movies, and that's it. Joe was probably mostly the same thing. Next, Joe's like basically just 1 episode of the Super Strong Battle and like 1 movie. So he has a little bit left. Luca. Oh, yeah, also Luca and Don swap Ranger suits, so that was kind of funny. So after this movie, just the Strong Battle, and the Tokugawa Gokaiger movie, and that's kind of it. In the case of Don, I think mostly for him it's like just like everybody else, just Gokaiger and the Strong Battle. To me. Oh, fun fact, the actress who plays Amel is going to be at Ranger Stop in a couple weeks. And her actress is currently 34 years old, and she looks fantastic. Yeah. So, what does she have left? Super Strong Battle, and like 1 movie, and that's it. Gokai Silver. Well, there's no chance to bring him back because his actor basically decided to get arrested. So what's that for him? 1 episode of Super Strong Battle and 1 movie, and that's it. So he got arrested a couple years ago. So basically, Rustin has scammed and fired from his agency. Investigators through Akita impersonated a police officer, took money from somebody. He was arrested a month later, with 1.5 million yen, victim's bank account. So for scam and theft, he's sentenced 3 years in prison, which means he's getting out in 2 years, possibly. As for why in the world he did this, no idea. I mean, the man himself basically, well, yeah. I mean, the man himself basically was already an accomplished actor. Why would he steal money for it? It makes no sense at all. Yeah. But I still do love the guy's work, even if basically the guy committed a crime. Yep. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty much the particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. I'll do that tomorrow. It's kind of late, so I'll see you all later, okay? See you. Bye.